Today I'm leading you through my morning birth ball flow to prepare for an easy birth. You will need a birth ball and a yoga mat. If you are pregnant and new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell below so you don't miss any of my pelvic floor tips to prepare for an empowering birth. First off, you want to make sure that your hips are higher than your knees when you're sitting on the ball, because that will make it easier for your pelvis to move in that position. If that's not the case, your two options are trying to inflate your ball a little more, or if it's not possible, you may have to change your ball size eventually. And by the way, that is also what I recommend for labor, is to have your pelvis higher than your knees if you are planning on using a birth ball. So that's something important for later as well. I recommend doing this flow in the late second and third trimesters for a birth preparation routine. However, you can do it at any time in your pregnancy if that feels good and you want to be proactive. So let's get started. Our first movement is going to just simply be bouncing on the ball. All right, so you can bounce straight, and you can also start doing some rotation with your pelvis. So doing circles in one direction and then switching side, going counterclockwise and doing a few circles in each direction. Obviously, throughout this flow, we want to be listening to our body, right? Like anything in pregnancy. So if any of this doesn't feel good, you have maybe some pain or weird sensations that just tells you that this is not right for you, then all good, just move on to the next exercise. I don't want you to do anything that causes pain or just doesn't feel right, doesn't sit well with your mother intuition. Okay, now that we've done some bouncing, we're just going to rotate without the bouncing. So I want you to picture drawing a circle with your pelvis. And we're gonna do both clockwise and counterclockwise. So we can do 5 in each direction. And really moving the hips here. Don't be afraid to go, with big circles. Just bringing some mobility into your hips and your pelvis. Good job. Great. So now we're going to do some side to side. So what you're going to do is just drawing a nice straight line with your pelvis from right to left. And it's okay if your sits bone are going off the ball a little bit. We just want to go to the far end of both directions. You'll feel a stretch here at the end of your range. Totally fine. Again, going within the range that feels right to you at this moment. Good job. Now I'm going to turn to the side and we're going to do some pelvic tilts. So what I like to use as an image for this exercise is that your pelvis is like a bowl, and say it's a soup bowl and you want to tilt to pour the soup forward and then pour it backward. You can also picture having a pole going through your hips and you want to rotate around that pole. So forward and backward. If you have any SI joint pain or low back pain, just go within the range that feels comfortable to you. Like I said, the goal is really not to create any pain with these exercises. So rolling forward, then rolling backward. Doing this 5 to 10 times. Your feet are nice and steady on the ground. Awesome. Now we're going to move to a deep squat. And for my deep squat with the exercise ball, I like to use it as a support here. So you're gonna go into your deep squat. Your heels really don't need to be on the floor. If you have tight calves, it's okay to have them up. You could even have a little support under your heels if that felt better. And now you can just support your upper body on the ball, and you can have your knees resting on the ball as well. So you can simply rest here, taking nice deep breath. And I want you to picture your pelvic floor releasing here. So the muscles around the vagina and the anus should be nice and relaxed. You picture them opening, blooming as a flower, letting go of all the tensions there. If your legs were too tired being in this position, you could even have a yoga block under your bum. And this way it provides a bit of support for your legs and you don't have to work as much with your quads here. So that can be nice, especially in the third trimester when that belly bump is bigger, and that can be a lot of pressure there. And feel free to adjust your feet, you know, they could be a bit more like this. Great position for labor, especially in the before the pushing stage, and also during the pushing stage. We don't want to be in a squat position for crowning though, because it's more associated with tearing, but anytime before that, great position. So you can take, 5 to 10 nice deep breaths in this position, and always focusing on letting your pelvic floor open and go. I'm going to link a video in the description below where I teach more about pelvic floor releases during pregnancy, so you could watch that video later if that doesn't ring a bell to you. For our next exercise, I want you to set up your yoga mat under your ball. Because we're going to be on all fours, so we want to have a nice cushiony surface for our knees. You're going to just simply rest here, your upper body on the birth ball, and the movement is going to be kind of a wagging the tail movement. So pretend that you have a tail and you want to wag it side to side. So you're transferring your weight from right to left, and you're just sliding your hips from right to left. Five to 10 times here again. And just tuning into your intuition here, if you feel like doing more like circles or things that feel good. And feel free to be creative for that one. If you feel like doing more like a U shape with your hips, go ahead. Again, the goal is to feel like you're getting some movement in your hips and your pelvis without pain. Our next movement, I want you to open your knees about the width of your yoga mat. And what we're going to do is go sit on our heels, and then we're going to move forward. All right, so sit on the heels and then move forward. And you can be creative with your arms position. Someone could be here. Because I have my microphone right here, I'm not going to go with that alternative, but you can also kind of just go with your arms straight. Again, our goal is to mobilize our pelvis, and here's an option with your forearms in support on the birth ball. Just doing a few times here. Next one is going to be cat-cow. So what we're going to do is really focus on our tailbone here. So you want to picture the tailbone moving down and then the tailbone going up. Tailbone down, curving the back, tailbone up toward the ceiling, feeling that pelvic rotation. Remember when I was talking about having a pole through your hips and rotating around that pole? That can be another image that you use for this movement. And again, going within what's comfortable for your back, for your pelvis. If there is anything that shows up for you, especially in this movement here where you go tailbone up, sometimes it can pinch here the lower back, so you want to make sure that you go within a range that's comfortable for you. Our next movement, we're going to go into a deep lunge. So you can simply support yourself on the ball, and what we want is to go stretch that anterior hip here and that psoas muscle, because that muscle is really important in terms of the birth canal. When your baby starts going down, we want the psoas to be nice and loose so it doesn't restrict that from happening. So this is a great way to stretch it here. You don't want to, of course, apply too much pressure on the bump here, but that's fine to have your bump touching the ball and having your elbows here. And then you can just even do some back and forth kind of vibration movement. So I'm just using my left foot here to do this back and forth motion, and I can feel the stretch here in my anterior hip. Okay, we can do the other side. So you're going to see how I put my leg here. So my leg is also supported on the ball, which feels nice. I don't have to use as much hip strength. I can just relax into the stretch. So I can do either a long stretch where I just sit in that continuous stretch, stretch, or I can do the mini pulse. Ideally, we want to keep it for 60 seconds at least, but I like counting in breath for myself. I find that it's a little less overwhelming, so you can do 10 nice deep breaths. And our last movement is going to be a butterfly stretch. So butterfly, we're just going to put our feet together. Our knees are resting on both sides, and then simply I'm using my ball just to go a little farther into the stretch. And we want to picture our pelvic floor opening and blooming. Again, in this position, this is a great pelvic floor release awareness. And of course, you can also stay here, right? If it's already stretching in the inner thigh when you're up, then you don't want to go farther. But if you can, just rolling the ball until it feels like a stretch, but no pain. You could, like in the deep lunge, go with pulses. So just going back and forth. That feels really nice right now for me, so I'm just gonna keep doing that. But you could definitely just stay in the continuous stretch as well. Awesome, good work. So these were 10 movements that you can practice with your birth ball in preparation for birth to help keep your pelvis mobile, so when the time comes and baby is ready to come out, you'll have a nice hip mobility to help for an easy birth and an empowering birth. If you haven't done so yet, I have a free prenatal pelvic floor book that you can grab in the description below. It is really for newly pregnant mamas who are interested in having a proactive approach to preparing their pelvic floor for birth. I hope this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.